the May 12th edition of the DawgPost.com Roundtable. This is Dean Legge, joined by Josh, Kendall, and Quentin Grant. I think we got one interesting subject at the end of this discussion, and we'll just start the first one, which is pretty interesting too. Josh, is it your opinion that Georgia's been such a big deal over the last, maybe say even the Mark Richt era, because of special teams? Is that one thing that separates them from other people?
I felt like it was one thing that separated them in the early years. I'm not sure that I have seen it separate them in the later years. They have been solid, but they have not been
spectacular.
Now, that being said, they set a pace that would have been tough to match. In 2002 and 2003, they blocked 16 kicks. 16 kicks. That's just a tremendous amount. In the years since, they've blocked 7 in the
well, and there was a rule change where you couldn't jump on top of people.
But still, 16 kicks in 2 years. We're talking, that's a tremendous difference maker. They haven't, to me, seemed to have as many of those game-changing plays. Now, what they probably also haven't had is the real gas that ended up killing you over the long course of the season. So they've been solid. To me, though, in the last few years, that's not what has separated this team from the pack.
All right, and I think that's a relevant point, because against Tennessee in 2006, special teams cost them that game, did they not? That was the safety and the block punt or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It just went bad. Andy Bailey, I think, missed an extra point, but they got it back in there. And nonetheless, Georgia was the only team in college football last year, Quentin, to rank in the top 5 of every single special teams category that the NCAA collects, including, I think they were number 1 in punt return defense, allowing very few yards. I can't really even read the statistic. The point is, they were very good at what they do on special teams. Maybe what Josh is saying is true. It's not quite the same, but it still is a pretty good pace there, that special teams at Georgia.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best in the country, and we go back, I think Josh has got a good point going back to the earlier years of the Mark Richt era and how they were just incredible. And then I remember writing an article for the magazine going into the 2006 season, talking about how great they'd been, and then it seemed like special teams let them down repeatedly that year.
Yeah.
And then last year they seemed to get it back, and I think what the problem may be here is we still got a sour taste in our mouth from 2006.
I think
and how things really, really went bad, and especially special teams during that year, and how you just like, why is this happening? This never happens to Georgia. It just didn't make a lot of sense. And last year they were very solid, as you can tell. Now, were they spectacular? You probably say no, but really the top 5 in all 5 statistical categories, you got to say they were pretty good. And that they were the only school in there. I think you're going to see the steady rise again of special teams. I think it's a signature of Rick and something he believes in, and you better have great special teams in the SEC, because we all know it's going to cost you or win you a game or two.
I'll tell you what, I misread the statistic. It's the only one with a top 40 in all 5 categories. The one kind of quote-unquote letdown was the kickoff return defense, which was allowing 38 yards, if I'm reading this right. Or they were ranked 38th in the country, so not horrible there, but not as good as their 7th in punt return defense. They're 18th in kickoff returns. They're 26th in punt returns, and they're 14th in net punting. Overall, they averaged higher than any other team in the NCAAs. I think what Josh is saying is true. It's not the Boss Bailey group that was just blocking punts left and right, or Reggie Brown, or whoever it was. It was just seemed like play after play after play. But it is still pretty good, comparatively speaking. And I guess since Mark Richt and the staff have taken over at Georgia, the Bulldogs have blocked 14 punts, Josh, 9 field goals, 2 extra points, and converted all of that into 95 points.
That is tremendous.
But
they set such a furious pace that it just feels to me, as a guy who's watched it over the years, that it's fallen off. And
well, it has. I mean, if you look at it, in 2002 they blocked 9 kicks and 7 in 2003. In 2002, they turned that into 40 points. In 2003, it was 17 points. They had one block in 2007, and that turned into 7 points. Well, that's an interesting topic, but I don't think it's quite as interesting as what we're about to get into. And I think there was a time where Matthew Stafford was too young to have this conversation. I think that time is over. Josh, who is the best quarterback of the Mark Richt era? Who do you have? We're picking teams right now. You got Matthew Stafford, DJ Shockley, David Green. Go.
Well, I'm glad I get the first pick because to me,
we all get a first pick too.
Darn! To me, it's a no-brainer. Is Matthew Stafford? David Green and DJ Shockley were really, really good college quarterbacks, and two of my favorite guys, just personally, who have ever come through here because they're good people. But I think that Stafford is on a different level. I think that this is a guy who will go to the NFL and be a starter, and that has been when you really look at it, that is a big deal. And when you look at it, who was the last guy from Georgia who went on to really be a genuine NFL quarterback, an NFL starting quarterback?
Frank Tarkenton.
Well, you got to say Quincy Carter. You got to give Quincy credit before he did whatever it is he did to run himself out of the league. He was a legit NFL starter.
Well, Eric Zier had he smelled it a second or two.
He smelled it, but that was because of injuries and whatnot, and it never held on. And Quincy was a guy who I think who started some games and had a little success, and had it not been for other issues, may have been able to have a career as an NFL starter. After that, you got Tarkenton, and there's really nobody else.
Nope.
And that's just it's weird for me to think about that the school like Georgia that's got the history that it has, just sheer longevity for one thing, hasn't had a guy who's gone into that kind of career. And I think Stafford will be that guy. I think that physically he is more gifted than either of those other two guys, and he's got all the intangibles as well.
All right, he picked Matthew Quentin.
Yeah, and I'm going with him too. The only knock against him, as far as against Shockley and Green, is they have SEC titles. Well, hopefully Stafford can rectify that this year and even that up. But I guess you go back to David Green. He was really, really good. I don't know if he necessarily looked the part. Shockley, you thought could get it done because he got some playing time there during the Green's last year, and then really he took them to a title. It's kind of somewhat a surprise. Matthew Stafford was anointed from the day he committed, and the pressure's been on him from day one to be the guy at Georgia, and he's done it. I think we threw out the stat before we ever started, 17-4 already, and he's been a part of some huge wins already at Georgia. And I'll take him, and I think they're going to win that SEC title this year with him and the quarterback.
All right, Matthew is the best of those three in terms of being a quarterback. And I'll tell you what, I love David, and I definitely love DJ. I like DJ a lot, and just as people. And I don't know Matthew quite as well as I've known those two guys because I knew them for 4 years. But Matthew is going to start in the NFL, period. He has lost, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's lost one game to a ranked foe, and that was Florida in 2006 when he was making about his fourth start. So big games, the kid comes to play, and he's just good, period. And Matthew's legacy will be winning a ring, and if he doesn't do that, let's be honest, it will be a little bit of a disappointment because there was a lot of hype made about Matthew. Now, the best part for Matthew, Josh, in the time we have remaining is that Noshawn Moreno came along and has, quote-unquote, taken the pressure off Matthew. Matthew can just be himself. He doesn't have to be the star. There's another star now.
Yeah, he really has. I think that a lot of people, I think that Stafford, from this team's fan base, is overlooked almost.
He is totally overlooked. He's so much better than people realize.
That's incredible.
Absolutely.
I mean, how much better is that guy than people realize? I had someone that works with the program the other day say to me, people just don't understand. The guy goes, they just don't understand how good he is, and that's exactly right.
That's right. Oh, it is. It's mind-boggling to me that people think that Noshawn Moreno is the best football player on the team by far, and that's not because Noshawn's not a really good football player.
All right, guys. I know we're getting close to summer here. We're going to pick it up next week, and this has been the Roundtable on DawgPost.com. Thank you, guys.
See you, fellas.
All right, guys.